everyone, and a very good day to all of you. I hope you are doing well and ready for another engaging journey into the world of literature. Today, we will be exploring Louise Bennett's powerful and witty poem, Colonization in Reverse. This poem gives us a fresh lens to view migration, culture, and resistance, showing how humor and satire can uncover the hidden forces of history and identity. Let's dive into the introduction of a poet. Louise Bennett Coverley, 1919 to 2006, was popularly known as Miss Lou, a celebrated Jamaican poet, folklorist, performer, and cultural icon. Rising to fame in the 1940s and 1950s, she popularized Jamaican patois as a legitimate medium for art, humor, and critique. Her works, including Dialect Verses, 1942, and poem, Colonization in Reverse, skillfully combined satire and storytelling to address themes of migration, identity, gender, and resilience. By writing in patois, Bennett directly challenged colonial linguistic hierarchies, affirming the value of Jamaican culture and everyday speech. Have a background of the poem. Louise Bennett's Colonization in Reverse, 1966, reflects how the post-war migration of Jamaicans to Britain, especially the Windrush generation. Using humor and satire, Bennett inverts colonial history by portraying Jamaicans as colonizing the country with their language, traditions, and identity. Through her use of Jamaican patois, the poem both challenges colonial linguistic hierarchies and celebrates resilience, cultural pride, and the irony of post-colonial history. The poem consists of 11 stanzas of 4 lines each. The language is Jamaican English, the diction is simple, and the tone is conversational. The title significance of the poem, Colonization in Reverse. The poem presents the social situation of immigration. Upon Jamaica gaining independence in 1962, there was a massive influx of approximately 3 lakh Jamaicans to Great Britain. Instead of referring to this situation as immigration, Bennett chooses to refer to it as Jamaican people colonizing England in reverse. Thus, this immigration is not portrayed because of people's desperation, but rather as people's assertion of their fundamental human rights, which had been usurped upon colonization and throughout the British imperial rule. Additionally, the immigration represents the phenomenon of mutual rights of a land. As the British assumed the right to Jamaican land, now Jamaicans assume the right to British land. Let's have a look at the analysis of the poem Colonization in Reverse from different perspectives. The poem can be analyzed from many different perspectives. However, in this lecture, we are going to discuss the perspective from the post-colonialism, social, political, and satirical perspectives in detail. Post-colonial perspective. Louise Bennett's Colonization in Reverse is a quintessential post-colonial text because it subverts the historical narrative of empire by presenting Jamaican migration to Britain as a reversal of colonization, where Britain once extended its power outward through conquest. Bennett humorously depicts Jamaicans as invading the imperial center in search of work and opportunity. This inversion destabilizes the notion of colonialism as a one-way process of domination and instead highlights the circularity of cultural power, reflecting Edward Said's concept of contrapunctual reading, in which the voices of the colonized, speak back to empire. The poem also enacts resistance at the level of the language, written entirely in Jamaican Creole. It challenges colonial hierarchies that privilege standard English. Furthermore, by framing migration as a kind of counter-invasion, Bennett embodies the idea of the empire writes back as former colonial subjects reshape the cultural identity of Britain itself. The satirical tone underscores this critique, demonstrating how humor can serve as a tool of resistance by mocking colonial authority rather than treating it with solemnity. In this sense, Bennett not only reimagines history but also reclaims agency for the colonized, showing that postcolonial identity is not about victimhood but about resilience, creativity, and the power to redefine the center from the margin. The second perspective, socio-political perspective in poem Colonization in Reverse. At the socio-political level, the poem reflects the complexities of migration as both an opportunity and a challenge. On one hand, Caribbean migrants were essential in rebuilding the British economy. On the other hand, they often faced racism, housing discrimination, and hostility from segments of the white British population. Bennett humorously calls the process an invasion, as in, by the hundred, by the thousand, from country and from town, by the shipload, by the plane load, Jamaica is England bound. These are the lines from the poem. The scale of migration depicted here mirrors the demographic shifts that reshaped Britain in the mid-20th century. Her satire anticipates the debates on citizenship, belonging, and multiculturalism that would dominate British politics in the decades that followed. From a critical perspective, this situates the poem within broader process of decolonization and global power shift. The dismantling of former empires coincided with the inward movement of colonial subjects, making Britain itself a site of post-colonial negotiation. Bennett captures this irony in the lines such as, "Oh no, see how life is funny, oh no, CD turnabout, Jamaica people colonizing, England in reverse." Beneath the comic surface lies a sharp observation. The empire that once claimed universality is now irrevocably transformed by the arrival and presence of its former subject. Number third perspective for the analysis is satirical or humorous perspective in the poem Colonization in Reverse. Louis Bennett employs satire as the central device of colonization in reverse, using humor to invert the solemnity of colonial history. The very idea of Jamaicans colonizing Britain is comic exaggeration, as seen in the lines, "By the hundred, by the thousand, from country and from town, by the shipload, by the plane load, Jamaica is England bound." Here, Bennett parodies the language of conquest, replacing ships of empire with ships of migrants. This comic imagery exposes the irony that Britain, once the colonizer, now relies on its former subjects for labor and cultural renewal. The humor is deliberate, the mocking the grandeur of empire. Bennett reduces colonial power to an object of laughter. The satire also highlights the contradictions of migration itself. In the lines such as, "Oh no, see how life is funny, oh no, CD turnabout, Jamaica people colonizing, England in reverse," Bennett captures the absurdity of history's reversal. Her playful tone makes the serious realities. Poverty in Jamaica, Britain's labor shortages, and the racial tension migrants would face. Yet, it empowers Jamaicans to reframe their movement as cultural pride rather than exile. In this way, satire becomes a postcolonial strategy. It It critiques imperial authority, destabilizes its seriousness, and affirms the vitality of Jamaican identity through laughter. That's all for today. We are going to see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much.